Hey loves, it's Britt, and in this video I wanted to talk about Mercury square Neptune in Synastry because yeah, this is kind of a tricky one. So with this synastry aspect, the telepathy is very strong, if not even stronger than some of the other Mercury Neptune aspects, but it's often more difficult or potentially harmful or deceitful because the nature of the square is that it's a very frustrating aspect. So the Mercury person may find the Neptune person to be fascinating, but they often just can't quite put their finger on like their true motives, and they can even accuse them of being like flaky or shady, or there's something weird going on in the communication with this aspect. Now, at the same time, there's a very shared, like, spiritual theme in the relationship where you could have some sort of shared interest in, like, spirituality or anything Neptunian, right? Music, art, drugs. Um, so there could be Neptunian themes in the relationship, or you guys kind of make your escapist tendencies bigger or larger. So this is one you have to watch out for. Now, if there's other synastry aspects that are more grounding and showing more ease in communication or more, I think it's not just like more ease that's needed, because the communication can be quite good and quite deep with this aspect. But what is needed is more directness from both people. Like, what are your intentions in this relationship? What are your intentions for this meeting today? Like, because one person might be thinking that it's a date and the other person thinks it's platonic, or, you have to look at also too, like, the sign and the house placements of the person's Mercury and the person's Neptune, and see where the confusion kind of could be. Like, for example, my Neptune is in my 11th house, and when I have this square, sometimes I've had it where it's like, I thought we were friends, and I was not correct in that assumption. But that's kind of how my Neptune naturally works, is I think I'm friends with everybody, and then I find out that other people don't think of me in that same way. And so, like, you have to look at your own natal chart to see like what's going to be happening with this synastry aspect. But something tricky is going on here, something confusing is going on here. And you also want to look at like the composite chart too, and see if this manifests into the composite chart in a certain way, because I'll tell you a story about when I had this aspect before. So it was like a double whammy hard aspect of Mercury and Neptune, Mercury square Neptune and Mercury opposing Neptune. And then in the composite chart, it was a Mars square Neptune, which is, maybe you guys know this, one of my least favorite aspects to see in the composite chart. Quite difficult, quite confusing, and quite likely someone ends up deceiving, or there's something weird going on with that one. So when you have a theme like that, you definitely want to watch out for just sort of a confusing theme. But at the same time, like, this person's still very active in my dreams or in my telepathic thoughts and things, and it's not even like romantic anymore. But at the time, I thought it was going to go in that direction. It definitely didn't end up going in that direction, or the timing is off, or there's something confusing. One person wants to date, the other person doesn't, and then when the other person wants to date, the other person is unavailable, and there's weird stuff going on. But that could have also been the Mars squaring Neptune in the composite. But as far as the communication goes, also too, what I've noticed with the square, when I'm the Neptune person in this instance, which I've had it more that way, the Mercury person can also kind of like see me as like this guru, and like give me this like power over them to kind of coach them, which can be good. I mean, I am a coach, right? I am a mentor. I naturally do that. But with a Mercury Neptune hard aspect, it's almost like the Mercury person can put the Neptune person on too high of a pedestal and not see them as a human being. Like they kind of like classifying them as this like guru with all this wisdom and knowledge, which in some cases is true, but it's like the Mercury person is just as knowledgeable too in their own way, although it might be more on the logical sense where the Neptune person is more maybe spiritually knowledgeable. But you do want to look out for the synastry aspect. Like if you do have a mentor and you're kind of putting them up to godlike proportions on this pedestal, when they're just a human too, right? And you don't want to do that with anybody, but with a Mercury Neptune hard aspect, especially this square, I've seen it, and I like to bring myself down to earth when people are like glorifying me, right? Like I'm just a human. I'm not perfect. I'm definitely not perfect. Like I don't have all the answers. I like to say these kind of things a lot because when there's a hard aspect to Neptune and you're like acting as an astrologer or a healer or a coach or whatever, people can kind of put you up on this pedestal, right? And that's not really healthy because we're all gods and we're all brilliant and we're all geniuses and yeah. So anyways, that's just some of the more negative manifestations of the square that can happen, but you do want to personalize it to your chart. And I think like the antidote is to just be very clear. Always be very clear. Like, what are your intentions? Say everything outright. Unfortunately, with a square like this, sometimes there can even be deception, though, or lying. So you may think you're having an outright direct conversation with someone, and on the negative side, they could just be straight up lying. So now that's going to be in more extreme cases if that person already has those tendencies, right? But in most cases, still though, even with like the best synastry, the best composite chart ever, there's still this aura of confusion or like, are we on the same page? Like, it's hard to talk about the practical, the 3D, the grounded aspects of this relationship when you have the square. It's a lot easier to talk about your dreams and your plans for like 20 years from now and your what you just dreamt last night, like in your actual dreams, right? Like Neptune. But as far as talking about like the classic question, what are we? Or other things like who's going to get the groceries today? This kind of stuff is very difficult. So in a business partnership too, signing contracts, like just be very careful because this is one of these aspects that you can think that everything's laid out. You can think you've talked about it all, but there's something missing. There's some information missing, and it could end up being deceptive or confusing. And mentally, it can be stressful. It can be a strain on the mind. I think out of all the Mercury Neptune aspects, this one is probably the most difficult to reconcile because of the stress on the mind that and the Neptune person doesn't necessarily have to be doing anything bad, but it will stress the Mercury person out because they're coming from the more logical, analysis mind, and the Neptune person is not really at that level. And so it can be quite confusing for the Mercury person to kind of pin down the Neptune person, but it can also go the other way where the Mercury person just ends up straight up lying and the Neptune person is like, having this disillusionment, right, of their Neptune placement like I described. So, there's weird stuff that can happen with the synastry aspect. If you've had it, I'm sure you have experienced it. Now, the closer the orb, the more intense this is going to be. And there are things that could make this more easier to overcome, but it is essentially quite a difficult aspect for communication, and you don't do it on purpose. You're not trying to be deceptive with each other. It just sometimes ends up working out that way. But on the higher side, this is a spiritual connection aspect. Like, you can talk to this person without texting them. They will, like, if you send them a telepathic message right now, they will message you later. And that's pretty cool. I mean, you're not going to have that with everybody. They're also going to be in your dreams, and there's going to be, maybe there is some sort of spiritual bond or contract to do some sort of spiritual mission together, but it's not going to be something in the grounded 3D part of the world. It's something very creative or mystical as far as, the Neptune goes. The Mercury person could potentially ground the Neptune person too and be actually kind of a helpful influence if this is manifesting in the higher higher way, which is more rare, but it is possible that the Mercury person could be quite a grounding influence on the Neptune person and helping them like kind of focus on more of the details of what their dream is, what they're trying to, you know, manifest as far as their Neptune goes. So yeah, I'd love to know your experience of this synastry aspect if you've had it. I know you guys were requesting this, so I'm curious how it's worked out for you. And thank you for your requests, you guys. Keep those requests coming, and we will talk soon. Bye.